Greetings, everyone, and welcome. My name is Alfred, and in this episode, we're going to see how we can solve the CORS problem when using Vue and Vite. So sometimes we face the challenge of calls on the server side, but now with Vite, we face another challenge, and this time round, this challenge is not coming from the server, but it's coming from the client itself. So sometimes if you've used Vue and Vite, you might have noticed that we get the CORS problem, even though we've configured our server to allow the access. All right, and this is the scenario that I have here. So if you can see the screen here, I have a form here where I am trying to log in, and I put the username here or email and then the password, and I try to log in, but I get the CORS problem here. I'm sure that this CORS problem is not coming from the server because I've already configured the server to allow the headers being sent or to allow this particular uh, uh, browser or this particular endpoint to go through. So how do we solve this problem? So one way to solve this problem when we're using Vite is to use the proxy part in the config file of the Vite. So let's just go ahead and see how we can solve this problem. So I'll go ahead and open my VS Code here, and as you can see, I'm using the Axios client to send the request to the server, and this is the Axios object or Axios instance that I am creating here, and I am passing in this URL as my base URL. And now here, as you can see here, I am using the Axios instance to send the login method here, and that should get into the server and should try to log us in if at all we do not have the CORS problem. But now since we have the CORS problem, it's not going to go through. It's gonna come back and report to us that we have a CORS problem. All right, so the way we can solve that problem is to use proxy on the configuration file of the Vite. All right, and for us to be able to do that, we need to listen to a key in our URL here. So instead of having our URL as the complete URL to our server here, what we can do, we can just go ahead and provide a key like that. And this is the key that we're going to use onto our Vite configuration file here to make sure that we listen for that key. All right, and when we get to Vite configuration file here, we have this part here where we define our configurations. And the first one we have is the server configuration. By default, this one is not going to be here, or at least it's not going to be the first object in the configuration. Just make sure you have it here, and it's where we're going to define our configurations. All right, and so what we can do, you remember that key that we set in our Axios, it was the /API, and this is the key now that we are going to listen here in the server part. And what we can do, we are going to have this, we're going to say, hey, listen for this URL part in my URL, and then if you get a match, you're going to reroute this to our target. So we're going to have our target here, and this target now is going to be our full URL or our full base URL like that. And it is going to tell Vite that we want every time we get this key, we are supposed to go to this target URL here. And before that, here we have to have the proxy part like that, and then we can just go ahead and have the key and the target to what we must target. Right, and now another thing that we want to do is just to have this rewrite rule here like that. Can just go ahead and have the change origin to true, so that it's going to override whatever we give here and pass in this URL here. And actually that's all what we have to do to solve that problem. So let's just go to the browser and see if the problem is fixed. I'm going to reload the browser. Just give it some time to load, and here it comes now. What I'm going to do, I'm going to provide an email, and I'm going to provide any password. I'm going to log in, and as you can see now, right now we have a different error, and this the request failed with status 422, and status 422 means there is a validation if problem. So if we go to the network here and try to reset there, or we examine this here, as you can see here, now you have some validation errors. Please correct them to continue. The selected email is invalid, meaning that we do not have this email registered into our database. So basically that's what we have to do to solve the CORS problem when using Vue and Vite on our client side. Thank you very much. Hope you learned something. I'll see you in the next video. We'll be solving another challenge.